She was the starting AD carry for the Rogue Warrior Sharks team, and Cullen was the sub. But we're gonna be right into pick and ban, Penguin.
Yeah, we're going to jump straight into it. A rel ban coming in from Rogue Warriors. Very curious about that one there, as the Pantheon, the Akali, fairly bog standard on the side of V5.
Yeah, it's interesting because we haven't seen PP pick it up yet. There is Rogue Warriors with the Olaf ban. I was expecting to see that. I wasn't surprised V5 didn't ban it out because Haro hasn't played it once this split. In terms of draft, if these two junglers are banned out, we typically do see either the Kai'Sa or Renekton first pick come out. I do think Kai'Sa is a bit of a higher priority. If you do go the Renekton, it usually signals that you want to go for either the Lilia or Nidalee kind of combo.
Yeah, we'll see what they want to lock in here. And something that's kind of fallen off the draft, the Renekton has it locked in. That's something I wanted to mention was the Graves, kind of seen as a bit of a red herring now as of the jungle picks. Came in still massive priority in terms of how much it's picked, but not the greatest of win rates. So we're seeing teams slowly but surely drop it off their priority pick list, especially on blue side.
It has been really interesting to see, and we do go back to getting that trade that we expected, right? Renekton and then Kai'Sa on the other side. Kai'Sa was a pick that V5 were staying away from. It's actually their most banned champion, but that is with Y4 on the roster, so bringing Trigger in probably is a way to enable them to play out a lot more of these meta AD carries, whether it is the Kai'Sa, the Xayah, the Aphelios. These things we're seeing a lot more of. And there it is, Mole's best champion. Teams keep letting it through, and Victory 5 are going to keep picking it up.
I think it's fair to say that a lot of LPL mid laners love the Zoe. I feel like LPL Zoe is becoming the thing right now in Spring Split, and to be feared because this champion, be it through RNG, be it through the will of the gods, be it through just pure determination, this champion is just wrecking people in the mid lane.
It's nice to see, and I actually love the hover we're now getting from Rogue Warriors in response. Twisted Fate is a pretty good answer into Zoe, not only in laning phase, but into how they like to set up around objectives. And this sets up for a really nice AP jungler. I would love to see the Taliyah come out here from Haro because you have point and click CC in both of your solo lanes, and it feels like he'd be able to get a lot of work done.
Yep, Twisted Fate coming in towards the mid lane does, of course, enable some kind of roam or flank potential as well. Samira locked in for Rogue Warriors here as their final one before the ADCs come in. I like it, but it does kind of open them up to just getting banned out in the support role, which can leave the Samira exposed.
It's also interesting for the fact that Rogue Warriors are clearly going with this all-in composition. You have the Renekton, you have the Samira. Both of them want to jump into the backline of V5. I would have liked to see V5 go with more disengage, so something like an Alistar could have been quite nice there, but instead wanting to pair the Kai'Sa with the Leona, and they're kind of saying, hey, you want to run into us, we're going to run straight into you as well.
Yep, they're banning out the Taliyah as well, so they're not getting that Renekton Taliyah combination that is so damn potent and powerful in that early game. The Leona, of course, very, very reliable engage, but also just very good disengage if they try and run into, like you just said. So running through the last true bans, we can see Rogue Warriors, they're going to focus on making sure that Ziv has a nice time against Audi in the top side, whereas V5, I wouldn't be surprised to maybe even see another jungle ban here, or potentially just ban out something like the Alistar.
I would like to see the Alistar ban. It combos way too well with the Samira, and it gives your team composition another dimension now that it can kind of play around disengage as well as hard engage. So good ban coming out from V5. I do wonder where Rogue Warriors will go in terms of jungle pick now that both Nidalee and Taliyah being gone. That's what the Twisted Fate and Renekton setup is for, enabling those long-range skill shots that are very high burst with the point-click CCs.
Yeah, well, with the three most picked top laners banned away or picked in the Gnar, Renekton, and the Ornn, we are going to see a little bit of deviation. We have seen the Gragas as of late, the Kennen, which is definitely not worked out. I do believe it's 0-6 in our league. Gragas, of course, has found its way throughout the picks and bans, but they are going to leave it to last pick. Pretty bog standard when you're on the red side. You do not want to give away your hand too early.
I like this pick coming out from V5, and they highlighted the Gragas. I still think the Gragas is what would fit this comp best. We've been seeing that matchup a ton in LEC the past few days. Gragas versus Renekton. It is kind of a stalemate. Renekton will still have pressure, but it would round out V5's comp very nicely. And for Rogue Warriors, they're just going to keep indexing into more engage, so we are going to see the Galio support come in. It is very good at enabling lane priority in the bot side. The question for me is, what are Rogue Warriors going to pick for jungle? Because I don't think there's any high tier or good option left, but Haro is smiling now that he got that Lee Sin.
Yeah, got the Lee Sin. Very, very, very powerful pick potential. Has fallen off in terms of meta relevance in the LPL, but still a very strong kind of playmaking style jungler that everyone in the LPL needs to know. And if you're wondering why they didn't pick up the Lilia and to get the Renekton and AP jungler combo, Lilia is a very different beast to Talia. I feel like Talia is definitely someone who lives for the lanes, whereas Lilia lives for herself. So that's why we're seeing teams not really combo with the Renekton. It doesn't quite work.
You put it perfectly, especially with how the rest of the comp rounded out. I don't think Lilia Renekton specifically would have been bad, but Rogue Warriors lanes all want a lot of attention. You have ganks set up in all 3 lanes, and we can just hit on that first. Very much an early game pick-oriented composition. You have double globals on the map. You have a lot of early game burst damage, so Rogue Warriors will be the team that needs to pull the trigger. For V5, it's stock and standard front-to-back team fight. You do have a lot of range to play with between the Kai'Sa W and Zoe. You have 2 tanky frontliners, and you should have Wei, who should be able to out-farm his opposition.
Well, teams are locked and loaded, and having a quick look down the ones. Which one are you preferring? What do you feel like is going to be the game plan from both sides?
I really like what V5 has, just because it seems more well-rounded, right? You can survive the topside aggression. You have a pretty solid matchup in the mid lane. Your bot lane's fine. Graves will outfarm the Lee Sin, and then you're just going to transition into those like second and third dragon fights quite well, and we've seen that's what the LPL is all about. And for Rogue Warriors, they have all the tools to get ahead, but we've seen Rogue Warriors aren't quite there yet in terms of execution with being able to pull off these sorts of compositions.
And that's the key word. I like that you brought that up there. Is execution of a comp is the key. Like in a vacuum, you can make up whatever about the drafts. You can make up, you know, and bring out the statistics and why this works, why that doesn't work. But we're not in a vacuum. We're on the LPL stage, and that is what is important. It's how you execute your team composition and your strengths versus someone else's, and that's what we are here to see. But ladies and gentlemen, team comps are locked in, and we're going to jump in for our first game of our first series of the day. Rogue Warriors looking to try and find some kind of a foothold to maybe make a little bit of a run at playoffs. V5 looking to cement themselves as a playoff team in the middle of the split. And Lyric, it feels great to be on the mic with you for once.
It feels great. It feels a bit strange though. I'm gonna say again, we've been talking to each other for a year. We've been working together for a year, and we're finally talking about some LPL together.
Yeah, I like the fact that, you know, I've worked with you for a little bit over a year now, and yet I myself cannot confirm whether or not you have legs. I have not seen you. I don't know. I know you from like the waist up. I cannot confirm to chat whether or not you have legs. And that's just kind of weird to me, all right? I'm going to be honest. It's a strange feeling.
I mean, to be fair, neither of us can actually confirm if the other one really exists or not.
That's some existential stuff that I don't feel qualified to go into right now, nor do I feel mentally prepared. But coming into this game, I want to talk about early game expectations. The Lee Sin is not considered that great of a farming jungler, where obviously Wei is. I want to see Haro make some plays in the early game. I want to see level 3, level 4. He's in his solo lanes trying to make stuff happen. I
agree, and it's also nice to see the jungle starts coming out. We see Wei probably just going to do a full clear towards the bottom side of his map like he's doing right now. Going to go for that Scuttle Crab quite easily. And Haro going to go play up towards his strong solo laners. We've already mentioned both of them having point-and-click CCs. So maybe could even look for a potential level 2 or 3 gank in mid lane. Very easy for him to finish off these Krugs and just look for that gank with the setup coming out from gold card. So Haro, the ball is definitely in his court. He needs to be the ones making things happen.
Needs to make things happen, and Wei going for this Graves. And actually, while we have a bit of time in the early game, I wanted to ask you, where do you see the Graves falling in these early games? Because something that I've noticed is that obviously we talked about being a little bit of a red herring, but for Graves, why do you feel it hasn't really worked out for that many teams? Have they just been figured it out, or is it just is it an execution kind of setup?
To me, there's numerous factors to why it hasn't really worked out so smooth. Mostly, I feel that Olaf and Pantheon... Oh, Mole.
I think Forge is dead. Yep, Forge is dead, but he will just flash forward and get himself the gold card down onto Mole. But this is why we said this is the year of the Mole. I didn't even expect that to happen. He just fully committed with his own flash, picked up the Ignite. This is why this guy is so good.
This is why you don't give this man Zoe. It's his best champion, I'd say, by far, even better than his Syndra. He always shows up on it. And this leads to a lot of questions we had about Forge in 2020, where he honestly wasn't the best laner. When he was on Beachy, he got a ton of jungle attention from Ike's. Ike's was pretty much ganking mid after every camp. But we're going to see the replay here. Does get stunned, had already picked up an Ignite. Throws down the bubble, goes in with the Paddle Star, uses the other Ignite, and then, yeah, he just gets a nice, easy kill. Haro not able to follow up through all those minions, despite Mole not having a flash. And then we come back into it, and Forge once again getting bullied. Yeah,
we were only talking about how Forge was the one shining light of this Rogue Warriors team, but you're against someone like Mole, who consistently over the last year and a bit has just kind of gone from strength to strength to strength. And even though V5 have, yes, had shaky performances, and yes, they've looked a little bit less than, less than great in certain matchups, Mole's always been the consistent. That's very difficult to do, especially in a league that has the likes of Knight and Rookie, just sitting there waiting for you.
The thing that's most interesting about Mole is that he's very much a role player, despite dealing the amount of damage and having the playmaking ability to be a primary carry. We saw him usually picking a lot of facilitating champions last summer. He'd play the Galio, he'd play the TF. He would really just try to enable Weiwei on the map, and never really stepped up to be that main damage dealer outside of a handful of games. But in 2021 so far, it's been pretty much every game, Mole stepping up, trying to dominate his lane. We saw his CSD at 10 was really nice. We saw second most solo kills after Knight. So it's a great year to be Mole. It's a great year to be a Mole fan.
It is the year of the Mole. Even though I don't actually know. I think it's the year of the Ox. I believe we're going into its Chinese Spring Festival coming up.
I just remember when we told Clement we wanted to do this, he's like, "What do you mean that's not even on the Zodiac? What are you talking about? It doesn't need to be on the Zodiac,
It doesn't
Clement."
matter. Exactly, it does not need to be, but a little bit of a skirmish here in the bot side. The taunt does get locked down as PP God is here with Trigger. Way off to the side, but so is Harrow. But this is the problem when you pick something like Lee Sin. He's already behind on levels. And Weiwei is going to be able to make that advantage grow and grow with the way the jungle camps work. They are just still sticking around. There's actually a little bit of a bait here from the side of Rogue Warriors to go all the way in. They're trying to take down PP God, and they will. Gold card has landed. Destiny was using the bot side, but the cleanse immediately from Trigger. It's a 1-for-1 over on the bot side. A long skirmish, but overall 1-for-1 isn't too bad for Rogue Warriors.
That was really clever to come out from Rogue Warriors as well, right? They backed off, Reheal hid in the brush after taking that heavy trade. Went in, they had enough burst to take down the likes of PP God with the burst. Sadly though, Weiwei was already there, so they did trade 1-for-1. And Rogue Warriors were the team that invested more into that play, since they also burned the Destiny. And we even see that V5's bottom lane is building a pretty nice CS lead.
Yeah, already in this matchup, you can see there the Kaiser Leona just has so much presence against something like a Galio. Galio is fine when you're going in, but in terms of defensive or keeping his Samira alive, not got a lot in the tank for him. So the gold lead will only be about, 700 or 800, but that is, of course, because of the passive from Twisted Fate. He's able to keep himself, in a decent matchup and at all times. But again, not too bad from Rogue Warriors, but we need more from them. We need to see if they could go, toe-to-toe with V5. And V5 are fine with this, in my opinion. I think they're okay with just letting this laning phase just continue. As I say that, it's just so hard for them to keep away from PP God.
The thing I want to see next, though, is because obviously Rogue Warriors' bottom lane doesn't have prio, but they do have TP advantage up in the top side, and Rogue Warriors did just spot out Weiwei on the map. If they want to look for some kind of early dragon play, you can have Ziv come down. Haro's already on this side of the map. You would think it should be a pretty nice pickup for the side of Rogue Warriors.
Now Mole, level 7, has got his Lost Chapter in his inventory as well, so he's going to be feeling a little bit freer to be able to push up this wave, got a lot of wave clear with those paddle stars. He can just pretty much one-shot the back line, so gotta be very careful of your fours. You cannot be taking these triple bubbles for free, because it's just going to open up the map for V5 and make them, just so much more available to make plays. And speaking of making plays, they're going to force the flash out of Trigger, but there is no flash onto PP God. And then sadly for him, your god is dead, says Rogue Warriors, as V5 now find themselves at equal kills.
Nice play from Haro. We talked about how they have TP advantage and they want to be looking towards the bot side anyway. Haro had tempo moving down to this side of the map. I expect him to push in this wave and then just go up and take that free Mountain Drake. Oh no.
They push it in. Looks like they're gonna reset here. They don't actually have full. It's still very early on in the game. It is only 8 minutes, so those death timers are actually very, very short. So you can see with Graves and Leona coming up the map, I kind of agree with being a little bit more cautious, but the idea was there. I think that's the best way I can put it.
TP advantage. Look at Ziv just sitting there farming minions. Doesn't need to farm minions. Seems to be farming enemy champions and starting to stack those objectives, but instead Rogue Warriors going to use that recall and try to force a gold advantage by rotating their bot lane towards topside and gonna try and use their top prio instead of for a TP advantage to just take that Herald. But I think V5 are fine if they just end up trading for Drake.
Yeah, I think this is kind of synonymous to what we expected from the compositions. You look at how later in the game, as we have a quick pause, but later in the game, the Renekton isn't going to be as powerful as, as he probably wants to be, and getting him as much gold as he physically can right now is probably the play from the side of Rogue Warriors. They just want to try and get their champions as far ahead as possible because it's just not really going to be as powerful for them later on in the game.
And the thing is, they have a very easy turret to use it on, right? They can transition that towards topside, pushing Ziv further ahead like you're talking about. The thing is, before the pause, we started to see V5 make their way up there for a potential contest when they're already behind on tempo. Ziv's the one who's pushing the lane, so he has better positioning going into the team fight. I'm not quite sure that V5 should opt into this fight. Maybe they're going to try to play with their long-range pick tools like the Sleepy Trouble Bubble to catch one member out, but when Rogue Warriors don't really have the best way to use the Herald, again, you're dropping it top, you're getting Renekton ahead, but you're not going to really do much harm to the Gragas. I feel like just accepting the trade for Mountain Drake is worth it for V5.
It's been a bit of a tempered early game, apart from the bot lane, but a bit of a tempered. It was a mistake, of course, in mid lane from Haro. If you're just joining us, it is 2-2. We are in a pause. Some technical difficulties on the stage for one of the teams. We will keep you updated as soon as we possibly can. Hopefully, we'll be back in game as soon as possible, but it hasn't been that explosive, and for Rogue Warriors, again, like I said at the start of the show today, they're an entertaining team at very little, and I want to see them really look to try and blow up this game in one big team fight.
And that's what they want to do, and hopefully it is going to happen here at this Herald. They have the early game spike, sure. Their Samira is a bit behind, but their Renekton is incredibly strong. He already had the Iron Spike Whip from what we've seen. They have the ultimates to make this play. They have timing on V5. The bad thing is, typically, as Rogue Warriors comp, you would want to open up with a numbers advantage with those globals, right? Destiny to a side lane, maybe get a kill onto the Gragas, and then transition that into the Herald. You don't really exactly want the straight-up 5v5.
Yeah, well, I have been informed by my director that is Rogue Warriors Haro's reported in-game issue, and League Ops are investigating it now. Hopefully, it is just a little bit of a PC reset, and he should be fine. But we will keep you updated as soon as we have any more information, and again, as soon as we get into game. It feels like that's not his hair. Like, it feels like he's just put on a wig, and he's just like, you know what, I'm gonna be this person today, because that doesn't look real.
If I remember correctly, his picture on Gamepedia, it looked even more luscious.
You have to look that up after the series today. Just gonna have to go like quick. I need to check this out. I need to confirm this from everybody, but
talking about Trigger real quick.
Oh, sorry.
It interests me about how he's integrating into the team, not only in terms of play style and the factors we hit on earlier, but in terms of language, right? We have no idea how much Chinese Trigger knows. I'm going to assume it is very little, since only played in LCK, would have no reason to pick up Mandarin. So that could be another hindrance on the side of V5 that will probably take a lot of time to iron out.
Yeah, we are actually, I think it was a video, I can't remember exactly who sent it to me, or sent it on their Twitter, but it's a video of Tarzan learning Chinese or Mandarin right now. So that is a big question mark coming into, you talk about LCK imports and everything, is that it's hard to kind of see how the communication will work with a massive language barrier where you're kind of just hoping that they'll understand what you mean when you say it in the heat of the moment.
The best thing is about this topic, though, I remember the interview from Flandre when EDG won. They asked, how's Viper's communication going? And he said something along the lines of, well, the rest of us, we're all calling parts of the game. I'm talking a lot, Mako's talking a lot, JJ and Scout are talking. And he's like, yeah, Viper just kind of follows up on what we do, and it works out. So, you know, being an AD carry, I think Trigger is in the luxurious position to most likely follow that same pattern.
Yeah, it's definitely something you have to take into consideration when bringing in a team together. We are seeing everyone jump in, and whoa, we're straight back into the action. It's a 5v5 straight on the Rift Herald. You talked about it just before we started this, but it looks like it's V5 who are the ones who are coming out ahead. 2 kills for Weiwei. The Rift Herald still yet to go down as well. Oh, disaster for Rogue Warriors. How did it happen?
Sadly, we didn't get to see how it started off. I thought Rogue Warriors might have enough tempo to even just finish the Herald before Victory 5 were able to arrive. Apparently not. Victory 5 get here in time. We've already set up how their composition prefers these 5v5 setups rather than what Rogue Warriors put together. We are going to get a replay though, and actually it's Rogue Warriors the ones to engage. They get on PP God. Sadly for Reheal, he only ends up taunting the Leona. Mole had a really good position to put down damage. Weiwei there as well. And I feel like you're just wasting your cooldowns on the lowest priority member of V5.
Yeah, they just need to throw everything at the Leona, which at this early stage, you don't have that much damage to burn down someone with a, you know, Aftershock of the Leona W as well. It becomes very deceptively tanky. Just a little bit of an overcommit onto, like you said, probably the least priority target in the entire side of V5. I think, honestly, anybody else would have been a better target and would have been easier to take down, but V5, you'll take those wins, you'll take those advantages. They not only get themselves 2 kills, they get themselves the Rift Herald as well. I don't really know why the call was made for Rogue Warriors, but like we said, they commit to the call. It just sometimes doesn't work out for them.
This also goes to the awkwardness of their comp that we were talking about in Pick Ban, that they don't have a great way of getting onto V5's champions, right? They don't really have a real engager. Sure, Reheal can E in, but that's about it. Ziv would have to be coming off a flank or blowing a flash, and it feels like that might have to be the play for Rogue Warriors. You need to set up good wards. Ziv needs to come in on a flank, and that's really going to be the way you get onto V5's backline, because if not, V5 feels fine just posturing, having a staring contest in front of objectives where you can just throw out Zoe's skill shots and punish you and kind of irk you into coming into them, where we saw, hey, you know, they have a Gragas, they have a Leona, they're completely fine just tanking all that damage.
And this is, I like how you brought up that they don't really have a great way on the side of Rogue Warriors, excuse me, to get into fights. Everyone thinks of Galio jumping in with a massive hero's entrance, looking, you know, creating absolute chaos in a 5v5. He needs an ally to be within the team in order to make that useful. For Ziv, it becomes very difficult for him to get on top of or in between a lot of these carries to actually make that happen. So this is the little trap I seem to be seeing from people who pick up this Galio pick, because it's something that in theory can work, but you need a buddy. You need a dive buddy for it to make to really have its, you know, full effect, especially with the ultimate.
It's also why we saw the adaptation being that, you know, people started going Predator because you didn't have that reliability in another role. But, you know, we're not seeing that here. He's a support. I think he does need Aftershock. And both teams just going to trade sides of the map from what we've seen. V5 playing towards bot, and Audi looks like he's getting dove.
Yep, they look like they're trying to jump onto it, but as a pretty tanky boy, and with Mole popping in with the teleport, they will have to back away from Rogue Warriors. But now you know 4 people on the top side. You can drop Rift Herald here, give all this yummy gold and plates to Trigger. And that's a Kai'Sa who's now getting fairly big, fairly fed in this mid-game.
And for V5, they can just keep going on the bot side. Only Ziv is the one who is still here. Going back to Rogue Warriors dive on top, diving Gragas is not an easy feat. He has a lot of ways to make time between his E, his flash, his ultimate, and the fact that Mole has unsealed spellbook as well, easily can have that teleport, follows up as well, and yeah, overall it was just a massive win for V5. Oh god.
Big win, and oh my lord, Forge is getting bullied in this mid lane, and this is just V5 just playing a much smarter, much faster game around the map, just knowing where they need to be and how to execute properly. It's just clean.
It's also sad, right? We came into this game framing, hey, Haro and Forge need to work together. There needs to be some mid-jungle 2v2, some mid-jungle synergy. And we forgot to mention the caveat about V5, that typically it's not, you know, a 1v1 or a 2v2. It's always PP God, Weiwei, and Mole linking up together looking for these kills, and we saw it right there.
Yep, the 3, excuse me, Catalyst members, the core members of this roster from Summer 2020.
Ooh.
See Forge. I like the idea. He recognizes that Mole is probably in that bush, so he can't flash up because he's dead either way, but it's just so difficult for him right now. This Twisted Fate is great when it gets ahead or when it's able to live freely, as I like to say, around the mid lane, around the rest of the lanes. But when it's just kept in this cage, it just becomes nothing. And look at the, looking down the scoreboard, you can see this is why Lee Sin has kind of dropped in priority. Wei on this Graves as a farming jungler is able to stay ahead. He's now 2 levels ahead because of the way the jungle works right now.
Yeah, right. We have the way the EXP works at level 9 where you do get more of it. So Wei able to stay infinitely further ahead, and catch up EXP also being taken out of the jungle means Haro has no real way to catch up. That's why we do see farming junglers, faster tempo, Lilia, Nidalee, Graves, Olaf, these types of champions dominating the meta.
Right now, Haro needs to basically evacuate his own jungle because it is not his anymore with the PP God and Wei combo roaming around like sharks in the water. Not hysterics, but I can possibly do an Australian accent if it makes you feel more comfortable, Lyric. But again, this is what V5 do best.
Yeah, and I also like where they're putting their vision down, right? We see that Rift Herald is coming up soon. Dragon's still a minute 45 away. You have TP on Audi right now. You're not going to have TP advantage most likely if a Rift Herald fight does break out, but he can just keep absorbing pressure. You're going to have push in both top and mid. So with PP God coming out from his reset, I expect V5 to just start this one off right off the bat.
Should be able to start it off. No real contest coming in from either side. You have double Gore Drinker, but a Gale Force 4-kill level 11 Graves is nothing to be taken lightly. You need to overwhelm him if you try to go for the 1v1. You will just be taken down without any kind of hesitation from the side of V5, and they're getting all their mythics nice and early right now. This is 60 minutes into the game. They've got Gale Force onto Trigger and Wei. They've got the Luden's Tempest onto Mole, who is just having a fantastic time in this mid lane. It's just hard for Rogue Warriors and very difficult to see how they can make this come back because a lot of their champions needed to do stuff in the early game.
And let's be honest, right? If we're going to be frank, Rogue Warriors are relying on an overcommit from V5 or a mistake somewhere on the map. The only kind of place they can look for is committing really hard to one side. So you have Forge, TP down, and you look for a kill on Audi with your 2-man setup. But then, like on our screen, if you ever went for something like that, V5 are just going to win out more on other areas of the map because they're just so much stronger right now.
Yeah, with this Rift Child and Audi off to the backside, he's going to use the explosive cast. Doesn't quite get the angle. Solar Flare doesn't really hit either. Will lose themselves the Rift Herald, but they gained 2 turrets in the mid lane, and this just opens up so much retail space for V5 to work with in those jungle side lanes.
It's just so nice to seeing the decision-making and macro come out from V5. It was one of their stronger suits last split. It is a bit more simplified, but you always know what objectives they're going to go for. Wei having a phenomenal game this time around. They're going to be able to start stacking these dragons. And even touching on Wei and you hitting on that Gale Force earlier, I really like the buy coming in. I think logically you would be able to justify some kind of Immortal Shield Bow build into what Rogue Warriors have picked, but the fact that he is just so far ahead, he can go for this Gale Force and go for the assassination potential of just being able to jump straight onto the likes of Michi or Forge.
Yep, and talking about Gale Force isn't broken because of the stats it give you. It's broken because of it enables you to have more skill expression. It enables you to make out plays, to push your champion and yourself to the limits of what you can and cannot do. This is why we see the Graves just looking so much better when he picks up something like the Gale Force when he's ahead, because it can just give him an extra dash, an extra little bit of damage, and push himself so he gets even further and further ahead. It's just a smart pickup in my opinion as well. And for Rogue Warriors, they need a miracle. I feel like they need to start stacking bushes, do the Fnatic strat. Just start looking for someone in and off a side lane, try and just get something there and try and snowball an advantage from that, because just playing standard, like we said in the pregame, it's just not going to work against V5.
Exactly. The name of the game for Rogue Warriors this time is overloading one side of the map. Overload the side of the map where V5 isn't dedicating their resources. Sure, you are going to lose out. That is kind of the nature of where the game's at right now. But at least you'll be getting something. If they kill Audi, they're at least getting a bit of gold. They're getting pressure down. They're able to secure vision on one half of the map. It gets you somewhere.
Well, looks like they're trying to make something happen in this bot side. Audi, though, smelling something off and realizes that everyone was gone missing. But, like you said, they're able to make one thing happen, but it's all happening in the mid lane. Golkar does get landed down on top of Mole, who then gets the hero's entrance, but the exhaust straight away from that spell book just mitigates any kind of engage, and that's 2 massive global ultimates. And what do you get? Nothing. You get -1 tower.
Yeah, and we were asking, hey, how is Rogue Warriors going to get onto the enemy team? Who's the engage? Forge just ults right on top of Mole. He's the one setting up that big Galio ultimate. That can only work when you're doing that into 1, maybe 2 members. Forge cannot do that into the whole team of V5, so the question marks still remain.
Still remain as to what the side of Rogue Warriors can really make happen. But for V5, not to take away, credit where credit is due, is that they recognize that what, the only options Rogue Warriors have, and they mitigate them. They completely nullify them and make sure that they don't even give them an inch to get them back into the game. That's just smart play, in my opinion, from V5 that just don't allow any kind of comeback potential.
And the nice thing to see as well from V5, right, is that they've kept Vision up in this topside jungle. Weiwei has timings on these camps, and he's just getting his own lead further and further ahead. And this goes back to what we were talking about with Weiwei being in the conversation for one of the best junglers in LPL in 2020, and the fact is, can he re-cement himself as that in 2021? This game is showing yes, and V5 just going to start off the Baron.
Honestly, they can. It's straight off spawn, 20 minutes on the clock. There's no real vision. You have the teleport available for Mole. Audi is, eventually going to be able to make his way up. He has teleport as well. He's going to commit it here. You can see right now, Rogue Warriors, they have to try and do something, but they're just being turned on. This is a huge, huge amount of CC just being thrown on top of Reheal, who goes down almost instantly. You can't go near this pit. This is not your jungle. This is V5's area of the map, and you have to respect it.
This also goes to the fact that V5 have such a good ability to turn between Gragas, Leona, Kai'Sa. They can very easily get onto the members of Rogue Warriors if they try to contest.
They need Harrow. He's 3 levels down, so it is a 70-30 in terms of smite fights. But they land a triple bubble, instant cleanse, and they try and just throw everything at them. They don't have to stay on the Baron. They can turn and burn. The paddle stars are just raining in like mortars from a battlefield. V5 still chasing, still searching. They've triggered chasing down with Audi. They're going to force almost all, if not every single summoner spell away from Rogue Warriors. They lose another person. They do not delay the Baron. It did go down. And V5 get everything.
Yeah, so sad they weren't able to pick up that last kill on Ziv, but great stuff from Victory 5. They pick up some kills, they pick up the Baron, and now Dragon's coming up, and in less than 40 seconds, you expect this to be theirs as well. And we just have to keep asking the question, what kind of Hail Mary are Rogue Warriors willing to go for? It's not even what they can go for, because, again, there is nothing they can go for. They just need to throw Harrow in, throw Reheal in, have Ziv come from a flank, and hope they can get on top of Mole or Trigger and pick them off right away.
With the Dragon spawning in 10 seconds, it is only a Cloud Soul, so not the most highest priority from the side of Rogue Warriors, so they'll at least have that going for them at the bare minimum, but you're going to lose this last outer tower in the bot side. That means you only have your inhibitor turrets left to defend. I feel like that's got to be your final call. I feel like you just got to try and defend, try and get 2 items onto the Samira, look for some kind of crazy Inferno trigger where she's able to get multiple members, really, really low and maybe pick up a double or a triple. That's got to be your play.
Oh my god. Penguin, you are seeing like a good future for Rogue Warriors. Doubles and triple kills I don't think are anywhere near their future. We even have double collector at this point for the side of V5, so Graves and Kai'Sa on extremely strong power spikes. Forges of gold card, but nothing.
Well, lands it onto PP God, and PP God, exactly as we said earlier, is not the priority target. The base has been cracked open now in this bot side, so super minions will start to trickle in slowly but surely into Rogue Warriors base, creating another avenue of pressure. Ziv, you can't walk forward, mate. You don't have vision. You have no idea where they are. You think they're going for the dragon, but they're actually going for a little bit of a bait and switch into this mid lane. They're going to drop down Reheal, who's going to be going great again. PP God will fall down. It's a 1-for-1 trade, but this turret is still very healthy. They are starting to focus it down. There's a 2-for-1. Okay, Rogue Warriors, you got yourselves a 3v4. You need to get a Q from Harrow onto one of these carries. You need a Dragon Strike, but I just don't think they can find it just yet.
And V5 just going to walk away with the objective. You were right. They played that one a bit differently. Let's be honest. They could have backed off, taken the jungle camps, and just taken the Drake. Reset, get back on the map a bit stronger. But V5 thinking, hey, Rogue Warriors are in a position where they need to look for a fight. They need to gamble. They need to go for the Hail Mary. So they waited in those brushes, hoping someone would face check. No one really did, so V5 just got antsy and said, hey, let's just go on reheal anyway. Let's dive Rogue Warriors. They get a kill, they get the inhibitor, but still, they lose 2 members in the process, and they probably just delay the game by an extra minute that didn't need to be delayed.
Yep, a small silver lining, but not really anything to be writing home about in the grand scheme of this game. You've got finally 2 items onto your Renekton, but this big beefcake who's about 60 or so CS ahead of his counterpart, it doesn't matter because of the amount of pure global gold that's been gone into the pocket of Audi through these towers, through these barons, and just through these general CS, the rest of his team be able to help him out. So doesn't really make that big of a difference. We're seeing 2 items. I feel like this is do or die. You're at 2 items now. You gotta try to go for something. They're going straight away. The Destiny and the teleport being committed. They have got the Hero's Entrance as well. There's going to be a 2-man taunt, but a double Sonya's stopwatch for Mole just keeps him alive forever and ever and ever. But it's sadly for the side of Rogue Warriors. You tried. I commend the effort, but you are beaten down. Triple kill for Trigger. He's hunting for the Quadra. He will be able to get it, and that is going to be game 1 to V5.
Exceptional performance from the macro and team play coming out from V5, and they're still showing us why they are a top contender this split.
Fantastic, methodical, and just meticulous work from V5 in this game. They knew the composition they had, they knew its strengths, and they just executed on it. It's as simple as that.
I'm still left with a question after this game, though, right? Because we said, hey, they're bringing in Audi.